have a guest today, a guest that Mark Dunn and I met in Oshkosh and Bailey Ward. And were you in Oshkosh? You were Oshkosh. Yeah. So we were going through the different booths up there and saw there's a Laterno tent. And so we went over the tent and we met our speaker today, which is Claire Key. I didn't forget your name. I was just stuttering. And even put your little school banner up here too. I'm so proud to have you.
Hold on, Ken, you gotta mention, they treated us like royalty. We didn't just get the tent. What did we get?
Oh, I wasn't going to share that. It was a hot July day, really hot. I mean, I'm whining. When I whine, I'm sweaty, I'm wet. Is there someplace we can go? And like, oh yeah, don't tell anybody. We got a little trailer over here. Just pop in there. And we walk in there. It's refrigerated trailer. It was really air conditioned. It was nice. And they came in there, gave us some drinks. Well, they really went over the top. I'm like, I'll ask Miss Claire if she can come speak to our meeting. So I set her up for last month, and I was texting her and over text, and I was saying, what are your credentials? And she's got a list of credentials. She started flying with the EAA chapter when she was 15. She got her license while she was in high school. You can correct me later when you get up here, but I'll be close to this. So in high school, she got her flying license. She went to University of Laterno and finished up her commercial and instrument, CFI, MEI, whatever that is. I think that's more than one engine. And now she is a assistant chief flight instructor for Laterno, and she's got her A&P. She went to Kingdom Air Corps and worked on her A&P up there. So, and I said, with all these credentials, I mean, aren't people kind of reaching out and trying to? She goes, oh yeah, I said, well, are you going to be available next month? Because I figured you'd probably have a headhunter come and take you away somewhere. She goes, oh, no, I'll be around. She says, I really do like East Texas, and I want to hang around for a while. So we're glad to have her. And I just want to introduce, and I'll quit talking. It's your program, not mine. So anyway, make welcome Claire Key. Return up.
Now that I'm so embarrassed, I'll get up here and speak. So yeah, I met Ken and Mark at Oshkosh, and I'm grateful that he gave me a chance to come down here. He asked me to talk about myself, women in aviation, and Laterno, so that's what I'm going to do. I guess I just want to start with saying thank you to you guys. So I started when I was 15 with the Young Eagles, and I have never met that guy again. So I did this one flight, and it was kind of life-changing, and I'll probably never see him again. And I'm sure with you guys doing all the Young Eagles flights, you'll have other people who make an impact but you might not see. So I just wanted to kind of share where that Young Eagles flight kind of took me, so you guys can, I don't know. I want to thank you on behalf of the guy that I'll probably never meet again. But yeah, I started flying when I was in high school, and aviation was not on my radar at all. My parents are U.S. Air Force veterans, but they were both weather forecasters, so meteorologists, not pilots. So I just wasn't super involved or exposed to aviation, but they do like free stuff, right? So one day we were driving and saw a sign for a Young Eagles Day. So me and my brother, just kind of on a whim, signed up for one of those flights and got to go up. I was living in South Florida at the time, so we took off and just looking out over the ocean, and it was so beautiful, and kind of like Bailey said, I was just hooked. And it just kind of clicked like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to be doing. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So I, through the generosity of the EAA, was able to get my private pilot's license in high school. And I was like, career in aviation is really what I want to be doing. So at that point, started looking at schools. I was pretty close to Embry-Riddle, applied a couple other places, but just found that Laterno was a really good fit for me. Really impressed with their program, and it was really the cheapest option. So that's how I ended up in East Texas, and I'm so thankful. I love it here. I met my husband here. That's Ethan back there at Laterno, and it's just and it's just been a great fit. So I started doing my flight training at Laterno. My degree was missions aviation, so I did with the goal of being a missionary pilot one day. I did the mechanic side of things and some Bible stuff, and then my flight training. And flight training, all of you guys pilots, everyone is pilot here. It is the hardest thing I ever did. It was just really really challenging, but I really enjoyed it, and I realized I was a private pilot, but still had a lot to learn, and I know all you guys have been flying for a while. You get your license, but there's still more and more to learn, and there was just a ton that I learned and needed to grow in on kind of that path to becoming a commercial pilot. So I worked through my instrument training there, did my multi-engine license, which was super hard. Do any of you guys know the Diamond Twin Star? Know that? Oh my gosh, that's what we did our multi-training in, and it was, they said in an engine failure you need 137 pounds of force and one leg to keep it under control, and I just struggled like a lot through that. At one point my instructor said, Claire, you gotta go home and you gotta go to the gym. And you can come back and fly the Twin Star when you can do a single leg press of 150 pounds. So like, you get to 150, you can do what you need to keep this thing under control. So there was just a lot of stuff like that where it was really challenging, and I needed to do weird things like go to the gym and work on a lot of those SRM things, but I'm really grateful, and I see it here, which is super cool. I had a lot of just awesome mentorship, and older pilots invest in me to help me kind of work through those single pilot resource management issues I was having, right? We were talking about FOI things at breakfast, and just like hazardous attitudes that we need to work through as we develop as pilots. So just so grateful for investment from professors and other pilots at LeTourneau that helped me work through some of those struggles, and it's really cool that you guys have that. You guys have that here, for people who are investing in you. So, yep, kind of came to the end of my time as like a commercial student and decided, you know, I think I'd really like to be a CFI. I'll tell a quick story. When I was in my private pilot training in Florida, I went out on my first maneuvers solo, and I don't know if I had a good instructor or bad, or why this happened, but I was like, okay, I gotta do some stalls. So I had a list he printed me of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps to do a stall. So I said, okay, pull the power back, pitch up, pitch up. Does anyone know where this is going? Yeah. So I stalled, got a massive wing drop that developed into a spin, and I was like 16 and really scared. So we hadn't talked about spins or anything, so I just see myself kind of rushing at the ground, and I'm feeling the G's, and I'm pulling back because I'm like, oh no, I gotta get out of this, which anyone knows just makes it worse. So I was super terrified in that moment, and I just said, God, you know, I guess if this is the end for me, then it's something I love, and I just kind of let go of the controls. If you guys know anything about the 150 airbat, that's what it took to get out of it. It's pretty shaken up. And I got myself back home, and I was like, I'm never going to tell anybody at all. And then my parents, after a couple of days, were like, oh, you're acting like a psychopath. So they found out, and I went back with an instructor and worked through some of that. But kind of that story is one of the things that prompted me to want to be an instructor, and to hopefully keep people from being in that situation that I was in, because it was, you know, I wasn't educated on spins or what I should do in a stall, and that was part of it. It was also just, you know, my panic took over, right? So that was just something that I really wanted to help students work on, is building those foundational skills, but then also developing as a person and a pilot. And I've been instructing for LeTourneau for, I guess it'll be 3 years in January, which isn't that long of a time, but it's just been a phenomenal experience. And getting to work with students from all around the world, a lot of Korean students. We have a lot of Korean students with different language barriers or backgrounds, and just getting to be a small part of developing them as a pilot, but also as a person, and helping them see, you know, I believe that God has a plan for all of our lives, and He cares about really little things, and He cares about our flight training, right? So getting to help students see how God is working in the world, but also even in their flight training. Like I tell my students all the time, we fly Citabrias, and when we don't land straight, it gets pretty exciting. And so when students are really struggling with something like that or something else, I just say, you know, like God cares about your landings. God cares about you landing straight or these different things. So I really enjoy getting to invest in students in that way and help them see, the big picture and how the little silly things they're doing really matter. So that's what I've been doing. I'm an assistant chief now at the school, which just means that I teach students, but also sometimes I give students tests and stage checks and make people sad. Sometimes you get to make them really happy, and sometimes you make them really sad.
Well, I supported you.
I haven't worked with Tanner yet, maybe one day. But yeah, so that's kind of my experience learning at LeTourneau, and now kind of what I get to do at LeTourneau. I was also supposed to talk some about women in aviation, which is a fun topic, and it's been really interesting just in a couple of years, and I've gotten to see how that's changed even at LeTourneau. When I went into LeTourneau, there was 2 lady flight students in my class. We're really good friends, so that was awesome, but it was just a couple of us. And then steadily, as the years have gone on, we've just really increased our numbers till we way outpaced the national average as far as like women in aviation. So we're about 30% women, which, it's usually about like 6%. That's really, really good. Marina back there is one of my students, one of our mechanic students as well. She's a pilot and mechanic. So the community that we have is just really important and meaningful. And sometimes when we talk about women in aviation, we can get really negative, like, I was treated this way and that way. And there's always going to be things, I can tell lots of stories about maybe being treated differently. When I started as a CFI, my coworkers took bets on when I would get pregnant and quit.
Wow.
And that's just, it's funny. It's not funny. It was kind of hurtful at the time, but I have a really strong sense of purpose in what I do. So there's going to be things like that where it's like, that's not really fun. I don't appreciate hearing that. But I know at the end of the day that I'm doing what God made me to do. But also one of the benefits of going to LeTourneau is just the community of women we have. So that makes all the difference when you feel like a minority to not be totally by yourself, right? So we've got friends, and we are really intentional about trying to connect women so that if those unfun things are happening, you're not alone with it, and we can work through it together. So just a couple of fun things we've gotten to do. We send teams every year to the Air Race Classic. Have you guys heard about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really fun. One year I raced from Prescott, Arizona, and the race was supposed to end in Daytona Beach, Florida. So it's an all-women's cross-country race, and LeTourneau sends teams for that. We participated in the Air Race Derby this past year. But we also just have a Women's Aviation Society where we started that just so people could get connected and not feel like they're alone, and we can help each other be successful. So that's been a super meaningful part of what I've gotten to do at LeTourneau, is just help women connect with each other so that we don't feel alone, and if there's things that aren't fun, that we can help each other through it. But also through LeTourneau, and I'll just give, I guess, a quick spiel. We've got a really good flight training program, so I just want to give a PSA. If you guys know anyone who's college age and is looking for that next step and wants a university experience, it could be a really good fit. We're big on theory plus practice. So through my time at LeTourneau, even in the flight side, I've had some really awesome opportunities. I got to go as a class to Colorado and do like a mountain flying trip to get my high performance in the 206, which was the most I've ever learned in the span of a week. It was crazy. And I experienced high density altitude in a piston powered airplane. We landed at Leadville, and then I got credit for it throughout the class, which was really nice. Also gotten to do an internship where I went and worked in Africa for a month in Mozambique. It wasn't a month, just about a month. I got to fly the 206 there and work on some of the airplanes. So again, to that idea of we want students to see, God's got this big plan in the world. He's also got a plan that he's working out in your life, and we really try and help you connect all those dots. So that's kind of what I have to say about LeTourneau and my life so far. And I, again, just want to say thank you, because I would not be here talking to you guys at all without the generosity and the intentionality of people like you from the EAA. So thanks to you guys. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Yeah,
Claire, how many students does Laterno have in a semester? How,
right. We've got between 90 and 100
wow,
on average flight students. We're looking at being closer to 130 next fall, so the year from now.
wow,
We're growing quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah. We
Wow.
fly primarily, all our primary flight training is in American Champions of Cabrias, so we're really the only collegiate aviation program that does primary flight training in a tailwheel. So it's just a fun thing we do. Yeah.
Top 3 flight experiences.
Top 3 flight experiences.
He's already told us one.
Yeah, when I was flying in Africa, there was a missionary family that they were translating the Bible in a really, really remote village. And they're from America, and it was a little bit of culture shock because they were just by themselves, trying to learn the language and build relationships to get a really accurate translation. So they were really isolated, and we found out that the wife just really wanted an oven because she didn't have one, so she was cooking over just like a hot pad. So some people donated money to get her like this mini oven. So we loaded it up in the 206 and landed on this dirt strip and got to take this lady an oven. It was really awesome. I guess the other one would be Colorado, landing at Leadville. It was pretty awesome.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the elevation at Leadville?
I was just looking at it, 9,900.
Yeah, it's almost 10.
Something
Just
like
under
that.
10.
Yeah. Really start to want a turbocharger. Yeah. Yep. And then if you guys have any, we have a great mechanic program as well. I didn't know anything about being a mechanic at all when I went to Laterno. That was kind of overwhelming. It was pretty challenging. A lot of guys are working with their dad on the car, doing something, and I was like, I just know I needed to sign up for this class, and I went to Harbor Freight and got some tools and went to class. But again, through the investment of professors and older people, figured it out eventually. So I've got my A&P. Marina is also a mechanic. That's one of the flagship things we do is you can come to us and you can be a pilot and also be a mechanic. It's a great backup, or if you find out that you really like both, you guys know there's plenty of opportunity to fly and maintain out there.
What are you gonna do in 5 years? Like where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I would really like to go into overseas missions with my husband. My husband is starting his A&P training soon, so we're excited about that, hopefully going into some sort of missions aviation. I know a lot of you guys have been up to Kingdom Air Corps, and I was able to go up there and be part of what they're doing. It's pretty awesome. But, yeah.
Oh, she needs to come to Jacksonville. Meet Steve, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Outstanding.